The Oxford English Dictionary defines microtransaction as zero result for microtransaction.
Wikipedia defines microtransaction as a business model where users can purchase virtual goods with micropayments. If you've been alive at all in the last 20 or so years, you might recognize this term and maybe even its execution. Microtransactions have been especially prevalent in, you guessed it, video games. While spending and making money are great pastimes, microtransactions have made a bit of a bad name for themselves since they were introduced into the world. In this essay, I will explore the impact that microtransactions have not only on the gaming community, but on the games industry itself. Let's take a quick look into the origins of microtransactions in video games and delve into the good, the bad, and the ugly. The first instance of microtransactions in video games can be traced back to a few different places. One kicked off a snowball effect of sorts for microtransactions in video games, while the other served as more of an early model of what microtransactions could be. Let's take a look into the latter. In 1997, former stockbroker Matt Mihaly, his name's Matt. In 1997, former stockbroker Matt and a team developed and launched YEEEHAWW, Dreams of Divine Lands, a multi-user dungeon, or MUD. He came up with an early take on the free-to-play game model. Selling in-game credits for real money, users could use these credits to improve their abilities, upgrade their character, and eventually buy special weapons or items. This was really unheard of at the time. Spending my real, hard-earned human dollars that I had to go to frickin' my job and commute and work, spend my real money on something virtual, who the hell would do that? Well, many people had that thought exactly, but many people were on board with the idea of buying things in-game. Matt and his team programmed a small batch of items that they then auctioned off live in the game, and they generated about $5,000 in revenue. After launching this dual currency model, at one point the game was bringing in about $15 per user per month, and even in some cases $75 per user per month. Since Venmo, PayPal, online transactions weren't really a thing in the late 90s, especially for this game, people would mail in physical checks to Matt and his team, and they would credit the users to their account. It's really weird. I just thought that was kind of cool. The problem with this and many other microtransactions later down the line is that this can easily become a pay-to-win situation. In a chaos situation, many items and upgrades that players could buy ended up giving them an edge against other players in battle. Or they could shave off hundreds of hours of grinding and gameplay just by dropping a couple $100. According to an article by Mark Mills at Rock Paper Shotgun, fully mastering your character skills at level 80, a late game breakpoint, will cost you $511.99. One interviewee from the same article stated, "I found myself saying, oh, I died. If I purchase X, that won't happen. So I bought it. $100, $200 at first, and then eventually $500, $600. You don't think about it. So, not great. Kind of bad, but this business model was relatively successful for a game like YEEEHAWW. However, it didn't bring microtransactions into the spotlight like The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion released on March 20th, 2006, and everyone really liked it. In April, Bethesda announced that they were adding DLC for players to purchase in-game. The first pack of DLC they released was a set of horse armor. It didn't really do anything, just made your horse look different, and it cost about $2.50. Looking back on this doesn't really seem like a big issue, especially coming from today's perspective, where we got kids spending $10,000 on their dad's iPhone on Fortnite because they could. But in 2006, this was a big deal. And some people were not happy about it. They were upset about how useless this DLC was and why anyone would buy it just for looks. Bethesda ignored the anger of the masses and continued to trudge on, releasing some more DLC that could be purchased in the game. We're not going to make any knee-jerk decisions based on it being available for 5 hours. We'll see what folks think and put out a few others we have planned and figure out where to go from there. Pete Hines, the VP of PR and marketing at the time, stated. Well, that was apparently the right move, because the horse armor went on to be the 9th best-selling DLC in Oblivion and launched the video game industry down the path of microtransactions. I didn't start YEEEHAWW to break new ground. Any new ground that is broken is done not for the purpose of breaking new ground, but in the end, to make money. Uh-oh. Microtransactions can't be all bad, right? Like if all these big companies are doing it, and there has to be some benefit, right? Well, here's the yes part of that question. The idea of constantly updating games, like Fortnite, Valorant, Apex Legends, Call of Duty, Overwatch 2, is costly. But for consumers, being able to have regular updates and new content in games you know and love can be a good thing. Without the revenue stream of battle passes and loot boxes and other DLC, this probably wouldn't be as feasible or sustainable for any of these companies. Even if they're massive and they're bringing in $1 billion a year, who knows? We know these companies aren't great at treating their devs good or making them work a reasonable number of hours, but they still pay them, kind of. On the other side of this, from the gamer's perspective, it's really nice to boot up a game every once in a while and get some new content, some new maps, maybe even some new gameplay. Like, yeah, I want that. Like, that looks cool. I want to look all neon and crazy when I'm missing every other shot. More than that, every shot. Then I'll look cool and, oh, how much is it? When done correctly, microtransactions can add fun customization or even new and exciting content for consumers. When done incorrectly, they can add some fun ways to buy your way to the top of the leaderboard and make everyone else playing the game really mad. One of these ways is affectionately known as a pay-to-win scenario. Big AAA titles like Star Wars Battlefront 2 or mobile apps like Clash of Clans and Candy Crush have run into this problem. On launch, Star Wars Battlefront 2 had some major characters essentially locked behind a paywall, meaning that in order to unlock Darth Vader, let's say, you could either play for dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds of hours, grinding for enough in-game currency in order to unlock the character upgrade, or not play for dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds of hours, and instead just drop more money on a game you already spent $60 on. Now, if you have unlimited money, unlike myself, option B is looking pretty good. These unlockable characters were more powerful than the standard set of characters that players could originally choose from, meaning there's an unfair advantage between players willing to drop the extra cash on the character and those who couldn't afford it. EA faced a ton of backlash for this, and eventually lowered the amount of time it would take to unlock these characters and change some other stuff with their in-game currency transactions as well. Freemium games! Yay! Freemium games! Freemium games! Freemium games! Mobile games like Clash of Clans and Candy Crush also offer microtransactions, but since these games are free and don't cost like $60, this is kind of standard. However, these transactions can change a player's standing among other players in the game. In Clash of Clans, players battle each other, right? So being able to rapidly improve buildings and troop levels and get resources will give you an advantage against other players playing the game who aren't willing to drop $100 on a mobile app. Candy Crush also contains microtransactions, but it really is more of a single-player based game. That being said, you can still compare your rankings among other players who are playing the game. These rankings can be impacted by how much a person is spending on microtransactions in the game, thus impacting player interaction and making some people upset. Now that's all fine and great. Whatever. Companies are learning what people will and won't pay for, what makes people really upset, and what makes them the most money. Unsurprisingly, companies are not shying away from including microtransactions in their games. Given the lucrative nature of microtransaction, it is hard to say that nobody could have seen this coming. I think just about everyone could have seen this coming. Sure, this is bad and all, but it gets worse. Talked about the bad, let's talk about the ugly. We know companies will stop at just about nothing if they know they can make some money. We also know that loot boxes are pretty lucrative. On the surface, and without much thought, they really seem to be harmless. Just a little box that you get. Oh, and there's random stuff inside? Oh, I got a rare item sometimes? That's kind of cool. Okay, let's get another one. And 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 another one. You see the problem here? Let's put a little more thinking behind this. You know gambling? Like slot machines. Sometimes you win a bunch of money and sometimes you lose all the money that you put in, but I mean, kind of fun, right? There's a chance I could win. Well, that's loot boxes. Oops. 2020 figures from the UK's Gambling Commission show that about 55,000 children are classified as having a gambling problem. That's just in the UK. Having loot boxes constantly advertised as soon as you open a game, having whole events in-game centered around getting rare loot, as well as children spending, I would say, a decent amount of time playing these video games is probably not helping the issue. Some countries have gone as far as banning loot boxes from video games entirely, while others have kind of just let it be. It is estimated that only somewhere between 5 and 20% of gamers actually partake in microtransactions. But that being said, if you have a massive game like Fortnite, who's raking in, what, 80 million monthly active users, 5 to 20% of 80 million is still 4 to 16 million. And in that group of people who are actually partaking in microtransactions, you can bet there's a good chunk of them spending a lot of money and also are children. let's not dance around the issue. Companies are basically preying on people with gambling problems. Uh-oh. Not only that, but they are kind of actively allowing children to develop gambling problems, and a lot of them aren't doing anything about that. Moving forward, I know a lot of people probably want to see companies take accountability for their actions, maybe change the way they're marketing this to kids, but I mean, as long as it's raking in massive piles of cash, who cares if it's hurting people? Not the people making giant piles of money, I can tell you that. Hope you had fun watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by liking it. And if you didn't, don't just leave. Comment down below your favorite microtransaction. Join me next time where I take a nap live. It's Saturday night. Bye.
Everybody sees me.